I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Feeling good as hell.
And welcome to the Nerd Herd podcast. We're recording now. I'm with Amy. I'm with Sarah. Eddie apparently hasn't checked in. He's moving somewhere, so good luck with that, Eddie. Is he moving to Indiana or from Indiana? Or is that what's going on? I can't keep track. But I do have just an observation. Our YouTube video numbers, our podcast audio listener subscribers is still slowly climbing. YouTube, not so much. I think we had maybe
Maybe it's Zoom burnout.
I did
or
my hair tolls. My nails are painted.
Oh, she really
I'm feeling
does
good as hell.
Yeah. Sarah looks good as hell. The rest of us, sorry, Craig. You and me,
not so much.
not so much. Sorry.
I can't
Sorry,
wear,
viewers.
I can't wear a hat like Sarah wears a hat. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I've got these flat brimmed hats that make me look like a little kid. So.
I'll definitely have to use my ring light if I wear a hat. So for now, just clip it on my glasses and go, I think.
Yeah, let's see it. Let's see.
You think that's the look?
Turn it on. Give yourself a little. Oh, yeah, nice. Good. The contouring is amazing.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe if we talk more about something that you have to visually see, people will consciously tune into the YouTube video because they can't see the craziness of what Amy's doing right now.
Speaking of craziness of what people are doing, not only have I now given haircuts to both of my daughters, but I shaved Javi's head yesterday. So my 17-year-old looks like a full-on Marine, like a total jarhead. He has like a widow's peak hairline, which he's very self-conscious about. But his hair was getting so crazy that he was just like, just shave it all off. So, and now he doesn't want to be on anybody's social media. It's very funny. He's super. I think he looks good.
So he doesn't like it though.
He doesn't love it, but like, it had to be done. I can't really cut hair. I mean, I can cut the girl's hair because it's pretty simple, but I can't give like a man's haircut because there's so many layers involved and you need to know what you're doing and I just don't. So it was kind of like shave it or nothing.
Right.
One of my good friends had a post this morning, which I loved. She had one of her cats looking in a mirror, and she said after this, she's either going to be a hairdresser or a pet photographer, and I'm going to encourage her to combine those two efforts. So for anybody listening, like I want to see hounds with highlights, poodles with perms. I want to see these things. I think it's a good combination, good way to practice.
So is the logic here of people not watching our videos that there's just nothing to look at? Or, I mean, Ed's not...
It's Zoom. I think it's Zoom burnout. Are you going to blame Eddie?
Well, yeah, Ed's not here this week. We'll see if the numbers pick up. It's a test, right?
You think that Eddie's boudoir videos make it so that people don't want to watch?
Really, that's true, actually, Amy. Like, Eddie sexes it up for us if without him here. We're just in ordinary surroundings.
Just plain. Boy.
Well,
sorry,
we'll see.
Viewer.
It's just a test, right? I mean, and it's Eddie's fault for not being here, so it's a good test.
How dare he move?
Yeah, I know.
Stay still, Eddie, where we can keep an eye on you.
Years from now, he'll be like, "Yeah, you remember that Great Depression or the Great COVID Depression?" And yeah, I sold my house and moved during that time.
Yeah. Exactly.
It'll be a great story. And apparently, everyone now is a virtual conference thought leader, and I guess it's totally predictable.
Wait, are they a virtual thought leader?
Oh, well,
is that what we are now?
That could be.
A virtual conference, virtual thought, virtual leader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All things are virtual, truly.
Yeah.
Well, when this COVID thing started, everybody was an expert, and I fell into that trap too. Right? I tried to study, tried to share what I learned. Quickly discovered, nope, that's not my superpower, and that's not what I should be doing. So quickly stopped that. But I think there's this, maybe this is the trend. Maybe this has been the trend all along. I've just been missing it, is that, there's this hot thing that everybody wants to do that they can't figure out. And now people that have dipped their toes in it are all of a sudden the experts on it. Alistair Crowell, who I'm not knocking Alistair. I like him. I think he is a very smart person who develops a lot of knowledge and figures out ways of communicating that knowledge. he was doing a webinar yesterday about what he's learned from video conferences or virtual conferences. And I couldn't make it. It was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I tweeted him. I said, I'm not going to make it. Is this going to be recorded? He said, yeah, no.
Well, I just want to jump in there and say I am reflecting on over the years, our ability to record live conferences has gotten so much better. It dates me terribly, but in the last 10 years, I think about how thinking has transformed for big conferences like a Cisco Live, a VMworld, et cetera, and who has access to the recordings after. Have you guys experienced some of those debates? So it's interesting that Alistair made that choice, because I think a lot of people have gone back and forth. It used to be they tried to lock down and you didn't get anything unless you were there in human. And even the recordings, it's almost like we're going to do a shoddy recording and maybe we'll give you access to it. Right? It wasn't, you know what I mean? Like,
or
even
you would just get the keynotes and not the breakouts type of thing.
There you go. Yeah. The AV support, and it's expensive, right? It's expensive to do good quality audio video and have all those folks in the room. It's accepted now. Like every conference now, you've got somebody running AV in the room and making sure the speaker, if not just for the speaker's sake, to have them be able to review their own work or to create a long-time asset. But it was not that way. That was not a foregone conclusion that everything would be recorded in a quality that you'd want to go back and watch it. So it's interesting how that's even evolved.
Well, I think it depends on your business model, right? If you're gatekeeping to be able to identify prospects for whatever you're pitching or talking about, that could be an angle too. I'll just say that I know that, and this is kind of passé now, but the OpenStack conferences, all the breakouts were recorded. They weren't live streamed, but they were post-event available online. And I think the nature of open source lends itself to that, to where you want this community engagement, whether you're there physically or virtually. And I like the idea of more content and let people decide whether they've got the bandwidth for it or the interest for it. If it doesn't cost you anything extra, just us doing this, and being able to record this and share this on YouTube, no extra cost to us. It might have incremental value to people that might want to watch versus listening. I don't know. I don't really care.
Well, now you're veering into territory where, sadly, I would have to say, I don't know that we're adding much value or information.
You are, Sarah, with that hat.
With my hat.
And I want to take one other swing at the. Anyway, thank you. I think it's an interesting thing to bring up. I am very interested in watching and observing some of these lessons learned from people, because I'm about to dive into both presenting and doing the virtual presentation thing. So for me as a presenter, to see what people are saying and how they're reacting to it. And also, obviously, being a participant in driving forth some of those conferences. We're going to put on a virtual CTAB. And I'm really thinking about what's that like in a closed setting. Will recordings be available? Probably not for something like that. But how can I give somebody the best experience they've got? So I'm trying to pick up all the nuggets all over the place.
Yeah.
But one thing,
I think there's something to be. Well, sorry. Go ahead. Finish
No.
your thought.
This was going to take it a slightly different direction, because on the flip side, I'm watching what musicians are doing and what people are trying to do to make money, because they need to have, you almost want to have that live experience, because a lot of people are listening at once. Because I went back and watched like the Post Malone Nirvana thing, which is still really cool. Like I cooked into my kitchen to Post Malone covering Nirvana, and that was really awesome. But I bought tickets. It's a ticketed thing tomorrow for this Billy Bragg Mother's Day festival. And it's the first time I bought tickets. So I guess I shouldn't say time date things here. I'm breaking our own good rules. But on Mother's Day, Sunday, we're recording this on a Saturday. So anyway, I have tickets for a live thing that unfortunately you won't be able to see once you hear this. But I paid $10 for a ticket, and I actually decided to buy two because it's a donation thing. And I thought there's like a zillion artists involved. So let's double down. I can give $20 to this. And it feels amazing that I'm going to get to see 10 or 12 bands, and I get a private YouTube link apparently before. So we'll see if it works. Maybe I'll be angry But I don't even if I'm out $20, like even if the YouTube live thing doesn't work well.
How angry can you get, right?
How angry can you get, right? We've all been to $20 shows where either the singer was drunk and fell off the stage or or something, the AV system went down. So you're not going to be super angry at $20.
No. Sarah?
Well, I guess I was going to say, I think there's something to be said for these shared experiences. All of the factors that need to be brought into consideration are, what is the business model? To Greg's point, like, are we trying to gather leads? That's something you can do. You can do that. You don't have to do that in real time over a shared experience. I mean, we've had on-demand webinars for a long time now. That's all this is. It's just at a different kind of scale, right? So I feel like the line between what is a virtual event and what is just online content that is or is not gated in various ways is very blurry. And we as humans, and creatures of habit, want to hold on to the rhythm and the cadence of the events that we're used to going to and attending to, and vendors especially want to hold on to that. But I don't think it's going to be sustainable to think about it that way anymore. And honestly, it might even turn out to be a good thing, because vendors and other folks who are trying to share knowledge or information that is a little bit more niche, I don't want to say siloed, but specific, very highly specific to different target audiences, will now have an even better opportunity to reach those audiences, because they won't be lost in the noise of an event.
Well, and my music analogy almost holds to your comments there. It's interesting because, Sarah, I think you watched the Post Malone Nirvana thing too. You haven't had a chance yet, or Greg?
No, I just heard about it.
What is it? What are we talking about here? I didn't
Post
know there was
Malone
a Post Malone
did Nirvana covers, and apparently they're great. A lot of them are. But he did like a live Nirvana cover concert.
So Dave Grohl wasn't part of it or anything like that?
No, he had the Blink 182 drummer, who I didn't even realize was still living, was there. And I mean, like, we've lost so many people of my generation. It's like, who's left at this point? R.I.P. Little Richard, by the way. It's like these music giants. It's what a time. But still, to be able to have this shared experience, because you could go back and watch it now, right? I'm not telling you something that's going to exclude you from it. And that's an interesting model, right? If you weren't there, you missed it kind of idea, which I think we as marketers have used as levers before. But in an on-demand world, we're all really accustomed to, if we talk about a TV show or anything on here, then we're used to being able to refer someone to it, and they can go catch up. So it's maybe we're just, again, 10 years later, I have such distinct memories of the kingdom being so closed. You had to be there in person or you weren't part of it 10 years ago. And I think that model's really changed too. I mean, it's a post DVR, post all of that world, right? Streaming on demand. You can find content somewhere. There's an expectation that it lives forever.
Yeah. Well, let me just quickly, and I'm not trying to plug myself or my company or anything else like that, but we did a virtual event with Nigel Poulton this past week. And I will tell you what a nightmare it is to pull one of these off, because if you guys remember the scene.
So that's your best practice, is like proceed with caution, Greg?
Well, you remember the scene in The Martian where Matt Damon blows up the hab and then he's got the masking tape that he's trying to seal his mask with because the air is escaping?
The potatoes.
Yes, the potato. So that was like, we had tested this like 3 times, like the 2 days before the event. 5 minutes before we're going live, Skype feeds are failing. The LinkedIn platform completely collapses on us, which is where most of our initial traffic for this was going to go. And we were also streaming to YouTube Live. And like everything, like we're like at the countdown clock at 3 minutes to start time. Nigel, our keynote speaker, drops off. The feed to LinkedIn is dropped. It's like everything is like collapsing and burning around us. And the guy that we had doing the engineering for us, I'll give him a plug, Nick Howell. He did a great job. He's like seriously like duct taping and like scrambling. We go about 3 minutes late past the start time because we're trying to like, can we get our shit together? Because there's no canceling it. I mean, we over promoted the hell out of this. So there was no stop. There was no like not doing it. And at the last second, we decided to go with just stick with the good YouTube feed. And we had our social media team scrambling to redirect people from LinkedIn back to YouTube. But a curious thing, and I'll just share this for a lesson for what it's worth. We ended up restreaming the event the next day on LinkedIn, and without any promotion, without any, in real time, 5,000 views of the. So the point is that your best laid plans may not always execute the way you think, but being creative of like, okay, so the XYZ failed. How do we make lemonade out of lemons? Anyway, lots of learning experiences there. But I wouldn't pretend to be a virtual conference expert. But we see a lot of these people popping up telling you, here's how you're supposed to do it.
Well, it's making me think, how many years we've gone on about SNL has gone downhill or this, that, and the other. But let's give a shout out to the people who run the back end of that thing.
Yeah.
Like if you have to do live TV every week, they must swig milk of Mylanta or something.
Now, are they doing it live though?
They do. It is a live feed, isn't it? Like all that comes, they do all the taping.
Like when they had the Tom Hanks,
tests,
when they had the Tom Hanks one a few weeks ago, which is like the first like kind of virtual one they did. I thought the vibe. Well, at first Tom Hanks made a joke that it wasn't really live, although they were making it look live.
Maybe they're doing segments that aren't anymore, but like whenever we were back in normal times, like that was come hell or high water because lights went out and things happen, and they just. It just gives you a perspective. You see behind the curtain a little bit, right? To how to make that magic.
Yep. Well, hey, some news that's kind of related to this. Zoom acquired Keybase for end-to-end encryption expertise, which was, I think, one of the things that I think from an enterprise perspective concerned a lot of companies was that Zoom, I always kind of looked at Zoom as kind of a consumer product that was made to focus on enterprises, but didn't necessarily have all the enterprisey features baked in. And then this happens, this new reality where everybody's doing conference calls, and so now all of a sudden they've got to scale on the fly, and they've got to adjust on the fly and try to meet the expectations. I thought this was pretty interesting. Sarah, you're familiar with Keybase, aren't you?
Only a little, but I'd seen them just from having been in security for a couple of years before I came back to Dell. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because of the simultaneous drinking that you both just did. Everyone should watch the YouTube feed. Coke and water. That's just a tale of two.
Guess who's
podcasters right there. Keybase. So I'm not going to pretend to have known a lot about them. I saw them. I saw their booth at conferences because I've been going to security conferences for the last couple of years. But definitely a smart move by Zoom. And Greg, as you were talking, I was thinking about how when I came back to Dell, Zoom was already part of the landscape at Dell. It hadn't been when I left, and they'd installed it over the sometime over the couple of years that I've been gone, and it was the default instead of Skype by the time I got back. And I was already doing Zoom meetings for almost all of my meetings. They had the Outlook plugin, et cetera, and that's how we were doing our team meetings. So I was very used to this. And my assumption, I don't know the background on it, but my assumption is that Dell had put into place its own security measures and really had no issues or problems or concerns with Zoom because they already had their own, infrastructure to support that from a security perspective. But for Zoom, I think the issue was with the smaller and maybe medium-sized businesses that didn't have that kind of support for it. So I don't think the Ciscos, the IBMs, the whoever's using the Dells of the world were really running into that problem. And then when this whole thing hit and it went out to the consumer and, you and your grandma were getting on a Zoom, that's where it really started to become, you're starting to hear these anecdotes about people getting Zoom bombed and all kinds of really crazy shit going on. So I'm glad to see that they are. And I honestly, my other thing I want to say about Zoom is, I signed up for a pro account at the beginning of all of this partly so I could support meetings with family and other folks that were close to me. So somebody would be able to have a meeting that was for over an hour. And Zoom has been impressively proactive. It's a little Zoom pitch, but Zoom has been impressively proactive in their email. They're not doing markety, gross emails to me. They're actually sending me updates from the founders talking about the security and other upgrades that they're doing to their system and their software that they're putting into place in response to this overwhelming flood of people that is using their product. So I've been impressed and pleasantly surprised by their responsiveness and their practices as a company.
They're not sending you emails that we're in this together?
No, in these unprecedented times. No, they've been really like very transparent and very straightforward, matter of fact kind of emails. It's not fluffy. I really like, thank you, because I hate that stuff, and they really don't do that. They're just like, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's another problem that's been surfaced, and here's what we're doing to respond to it. I love that.
I mean, and shout out to them. I have to, can you think of another time where a business has been a word that we knew, but everybody on the street didn't, and now literally everybody is using this
Everybody's
tool.
got it.
Yeah.
And even with the Zoom bombing and some of the carrying on, like, it just hasn't gone completely belly up, which is remarkable to me. Remarkable about the elasticity of the platform. I mean, I really wasn't sure. In all seriousness, we talked about this early on, that I think it was Netflix that governed bandwidth in Europe. I wasn't sure that we weren't going to break the internet. Right, because every human is home on TikTok, on a Zoom, on a, you know what I mean? Like Fortnite, you name it. Like somebody's doing something multiple times a day. Like how we didn't break the internet in general is pretty remarkable.
Do you know that they're building a 1-to-1 scale replica of the planet Earth in Minecraft as a group project right now? Were you aware of this?
Is that Sarah's big app of the week?
No, I'm assuming other people have heard of Minecraft, and so I did not bring it as an app.
All right. I didn't know if we were jumping up or moving our agenda around to accommodate that. So they're making an Earth scale. Say this again, what they're doing.
They're making a 1-to-1 scale replica of planet Earth. So somebody has built out in Minecraft maps for all of the Earth with contouring and landscaping, and then people are claiming sections of it to build out things that are, man-made things like the Eiffel Tower and the Great Wall of China.
So I could own Cleveland and build the Cuyahoga River burning in it. Is that what you're saying, Sarah?
I guess you could make it your own, Greg, to be fair. Don't have to do.
Yeah. I'll have to bring an article next time so I can give you more details. My son just brought this to my attention earlier this week, and it's just amazing that they're doing it, but I don't have a lot of information about it. Maybe one of our listeners is more familiar.
Well, it's not quite on scale with your announcement here with with Virtual Earth, but Google is moving all of its messaging platforms under one VP. And
which is about as much effort, probably.
The first question, and Benedict Evans called this out. He goes, "You mean they weren't under one VP before?"
No, that doesn't surprise me. That feels like, oh yeah, that's the kind of GM sprawl that happens.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So it's good that I looked at who knows where Google Messaging is going to go. We had a good joke about it last week of my feelings about how I kind of fell off the Google bandwagon or the Google fanboyism.
Well, I just after that, I saw on Twitter, and I can't remember who it was, going, wait, are we meeting in Google Hangouts or Google Meet? What's the difference? And I was like, oh my God, it's not just us.
Well, it's constantly evolving. And so, and the other interesting thing this week is that Google doesn't expect most of its staff to work in the office until 2021. And I was kind of surprised by this. I think, and there's other companies too that are echoing similar things in Silicon Valley.
Microsoft is in the fall, I think. Yeah, several of the big ones have come out.
I wonder if Silicon Valley is going to do this. This could be a trend for a lot of organizations, I think. Not that the whole rest of the world follows everything Silicon Valley does. I mean, Silicon Valley is kind of from a logistics and building and office space perspective, it's kind of its own beast. But I was a little surprised that they're putting a stake in the ground to the end of the year right now. I mean, we're talking, this is May, so this is, 7 months from now before they actually plan on opening their offices. That seems like we've only been in this a couple months. So to think that this is going to go on, these virtual working environments are going to go on now for 7 more months, Seems like a little bit of surprise to put that stake in the ground now. Sarah, I imagine that everybody in Texas is back in the office now. It sounds like it's literally the wild, wild west out there with restaurants and bars. And I see Ted Cruz getting a haircut. And what? So give us a glimpse of what is going on in Texas. When do you expect to be going back into the Dell offices?
Well, first of all, Texas is a big state, as you know. So what's happening in some parts of Texas?
Yeah, Austin is different than the rest of Texas. Good point.
I will say that our Mayor Adler, and the Travis County Judge, Sarah Eckhart, got on a Facebook live stream just yesterday, and I watched it, and they're saying, their recommendations around stay at home, social distancing, mask wearing, and being super cautious are still in place through the end of the month of May. And they, Adler is treading a careful line around how he talks about this, obviously, because he and the governor absolutely do not see eye to eye. But I think this is probably true in a lot of other big cities. So complying with the governor's orders and not defying them necessarily, but still instituting pretty much same as it ever was kind of measures in the city of Austin. So we're not seeing a lot of difference here. Or certainly, I wouldn't know if there's a lot of difference, frankly, because I'm not going out. I have to go pick up the plates, the permanent plates for my car later today. The tags are in. That's an errand I will run. But other than that, I'm not doing anything differently than I was doing last week.
Your Board of Motor Vehicles is open.
No, the plates came by mail and they're at the dealer. I go pick them up at the dealer.
Okay.
But we got an email from our COO last week as well saying, there's no return to work yet. Or no return to site. They're all very careful to say, hey, we're already working. Return to work is not the right phrase, but there won't be return to site for the near future. And we don't have a date yet for going back to the offices. And a lot of us, I think, will continue to always probably work from home from here on out.
You did anyway, right? I mean, so your life.
I did anyway. A lot of people did anyway. And Dell has been out there and pretty progressive around having practices in place that allow for flexibility. So we were kind of ready to handle this as a company, and it's not really put a big strain on it. Like we are, I think at 90%, everybody's at home already. There's obviously people that have to be on site, engineers and in the labs and other functional roles that you've got to physically be there, but everybody else has been working from home all this time, and we're carrying on as normal.
One of the things I think is going to be interesting, I saw an article that there's a little bit of a race to stay out the longest, if you will, between the big companies.
Oh, wow.
And it's almost a recruiting wedge, because think if you have a specific skill that's very in demand right now, you've always had your choice between companies, but one is going to ask you to come back in and share that skill with a lot of people up close and in person, or one of them you can do from home. And that has been one of the most interesting things and satisfying for me as a work from home person for many years, where they're talking about the implications on recruiting, about finding talent where it lives, and about what this means long term. People always recognize work from home as a little bit of a maybe a gift, and now it may go up there with like healthcare, that there's an expectation with a white collar job that you have X, Y, and Z support. And
so is this a moment where Facebook says, Google, hold my beer, and they say, we're not coming back till May of next year?
I think it's going to be interesting. Usually, you think of Silicon Valley as the race to be first to something, but it's I think that was the sort of fun and interesting observation, if you will, of it's the race to not be the first because of all the implications.
Yeah.
Well, and another thing I was wondering while you were sharing, Greg, is what are the implications? Maybe some of these companies are coming out with these farther out their deadlines so that they can make some decisions around their commercial real estate contracts and other facilities expenses. Their operating budgets are very much dependent on whether or not people are all in the office or all at home.
Yeah. I think this is going to be fundamentally changing. I think we've all agreed that the remote work and working in the office is going to look different. And the people that do return back to the office, these open floor plans, wow, how is that going to change? You know, that all that momentum to big collaborative open floor plans, and now I'll tell you what, if I was going to start a business today, it'd be like some cheap plexiglass bubble that you could put it that would fit on top of a cube. That
people talked about that, the return to that 80s sort of, does everybody want an office with a door? I love that somebody said that out loud. I'm like, sorry, you a-holes. None of us ever wanted to work on a cube farm. Nobody ever wanted to hear somebody clipping their nails one door down, like ever.
No. And I don't think, I thought about this a lot the other day. Somebody asked me, when would because I traveled all the time before, and I know, Amy, you did too.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me, when would you feel comfortable going back on a plane? And I really I had to think long and hard about it. I don't know.
When there's a vaccine. It comes to me like I am the breadwinner for a family.
But what if there's not a vaccine for the next year? Let's just play this out. It's somewhat rationally. Let's assume that there's not going to be one for the next year. Are you going to wait a year before you travel again?
It possibly could be. I feel even affirmed by this. A buddy of mine who is in the office of the CTO, who travels way more than any of us, right, combined, said that exact same thing early on. He's like, somebody said it could be a year, and he's like, you know, this is what's safe. This is what's rational. And I think you have to err on the side of caution. Planes are notorious for recirculated air. It is complicated. In some ways, I think about the way I've likened it for people who are more hesitant is the norovirus. Somehow that's more accessible to people on a cruise ship. You know what I'm saying? Like they go, like I wouldn't want to be around somebody throwing up. That's more easy for them to go, yes, I would not like to not throw up. So I don't want to be around people throwing up. So I won't do things that put me in that danger. Whereas somehow, I don't know why a lung disease we feel a little more distant from. People still have in their mind, maybe I can avoid it by holding my breath. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how they think they're avoiding it.
So let me give you a different scenario. If you had to drive 10 hours to get to an event, to go on vacation, would you do that day-long drive before the end of the year, do you think? Assuming that hotels and your accommodations are sufficiently, you feel comfortable that their cleanliness practices are good. Would you drive to a destination?
I think before I would get on a plane, I would, just because I have been sick coming off of planes too many times.
Yeah, I'm with you, Sarah. What are your thoughts? I know you don't travel that much, but I know you got family.
I don't travel really for work anymore. I tend to take a lot. I do actually a lot of road trip vacations. So I'll drive to Santa Fe usually once or twice a year. That's 12 hours. I'll drive to Colorado. Same thing. There are beaches in Texas. I don't go to them because I'm a snob from New England and I don't think I'm going to enjoy that.
No South Padre for you?
But my problem is, my family, for the most part, is all on the East Coast, and that's not really a road trip that makes sense for me. So I don't know when I'm going to see my folks again. That part is really hard.
That's hard. That is so hard. I'm fortunate to be close enough to driving distance to family, and that is a kicker for people, and I know it's real. So part of it, I think, Greg, too, I'm thinking I'm not on a plane. I'm one less vector. I'm one less worry. So it's not just my protection, but there are people that need to use planes to get from here to there and truly have a use case. Let the services support them and let me kind of stay out of the mess for a while if I can.
I do have a little bit of an itch to go to Hawaii. I've been to Hawaii almost annually in the last few years.
Take a boat.
Well,
swim.
Start rowing.
Here's the problem. If you go to Hawaii, like they're aggressively arresting tourists in Hawaii now. It's like they're not
closed.
screwing around, and which I understand the challenge, right? I mean, they're an island. They've done better than I think the rest of the United States has done, and they want to keep it that way. I respect that. But boy,
and the services, right? Because I mean, we locked down the Outer Banks here too, which we've done in the past in North Carolina, because there's literally one road and it is 2 lanes and there are only so many hospitals. So you're either medevaced or you pray that that road is not out when your ambulance needs to ride you one way or the other. It'd be crazy. It'd be nuts for the Outer Banks to have the amount of tourism it typically has.
Well, one piece of advice I have for you, Amy, if you're planning to go to Calgary for any sort of cosplay, I wouldn't do that.
As I am known for my Canadian cosplays.
That's the smoothest transition I've ever heard, Greg.
Well, clearly you guys know where we're going with this.
Oh my God, I saw this story.
Yeah,
Yes.
stormtrooper who was doing a promotion for a store. She worked for the store. It was on May the 4th, which is, kind of a Star Wars themed day, was walking around in what looked like a very good stormtrooper outfit and had one of those big plastic white stormtrooper guns. Apparently somebody called the police complaining that there was somebody with a gun walking around. And boy, the police went full on like this was the crime of the century. And even Captain Kirk, William Shatner, replied to this and shared the video out about this. The video, it is truly bizarre. And we see this all the time in different news items where you're watching this and you're like, how did complete common sense get thrown out the window when you can see something that's plainly black and white, right? Where there's no maybe factor about this. This is a person on May the 4th walking around in a stormtrooper outfit. And they could have asked her some questions like, what are you doing here? Or they could have approached us entirely differently. She was not a threat. And at one point she was crying. They wrestled her down to the ground because she couldn't hear them. And because she had the headset on, right? And she couldn't hear the orders the police were giving her. And it just totally bizarre when you see this. It looks like there's an investigation going on, and hopefully some common sense will prevail out of this. But you look at the events this past week in Georgia and other things where you can see a video of something, and your common sense tells you what's right and what's wrong, and yet people will rationalize around it or justify what they see when there's really this a truly lack of common sense of trusting your eyes of what you see, and just being a human being and being a good person, a decent person, just without having to, whatever your gut instincts are, trust what you're seeing. So
I just thought, I guess I had different ideas about the police in Canada.
Well, I'm thinking, I wonder if people are amped up after the recent, very rare and unusual kind of gun violence. So I don't know if people feel on edge, but still, I don't. It is. Yes, I'm right with you. I thought there would be a move to de-escalation. I know tons of people who've worked either in military police or in the police, and it does take such a special temperament. I think, gosh, I certainly don't have it of what do you do to de-escalate a situation? How do you run into a situation that may be fraught with something and de-escalate it? That's a lot of...
But that's part of their training.
I know. It's an impressive kind of training. And we count on them to rely on that training, right? To de-escalate.
And when people don't de-escalate, especially the people that should know better, that have been trained to do this, that have been trained to the extremes of it, right? Police officers aren't the public. They have knowledge of how to manage things when they get stressful and tense, and they have knowledge of how to de-escalate things in a way to prevent the most harm. And it's just, and I didn't mean, and Sarah, in case because I wasn't meaning to compare what happened in Calgary with Georgia as being equal.
Oh no,
things.
I understood exactly what you were saying. I didn't take it that way at all. Hopefully our listeners didn't either. And I'm actually glad that you brought up the thing in Georgia because I think it was on my mind as you were talking.
Same. How could it not be? Yeah.
We're all thinking about it. I know, Amy, you posted about it earlier today. I've seen more than one person say, I got to just go for a run today and not be afraid somebody was going to shoot me.
I have two daughters who run around my neighborhood in the South. How can I? Sorry, it is way too close to the bone, and too many moms I know. On Mother's Day, right? Too many moms I know who had to give their children the talk about where to run safely. That's madness.
How
that's
fucked
madness.
up is that?
Very. It's upsetting.
And then
it's
the people's
extremely
reaction
upsetting.
to
It's
it
upsetting too that it went
2
Sorry,
months.
Greg.
Yeah, 2 months. And the funny thing is, as soon as the Georgia Bureau of Investigation gets it right, the next day they're doing what should have been done 2 months ago, which is arresting the people. Because when you see that video, there's no like question marks. Now, I'm gonna get some bullets for this. So YouTube TV just added Court TV. So now I'm like, oh, this is a new shiny channel on YouTube TV. So watching Court TV's coverage of this, and one of the district attorneys they had on as a guest there talked about just the act of raising the gun and pointing at somebody is enough to arrest somebody. Forget about shooting, forget about grab. There's other elements to this, right? If there's doubts about certain things, there's one thing there's of absolute certainty. You can't do a public arrest or whatever their stupid excuse was for what they were doing, a citizen's arrest. As soon as you point a gun at somebody in Georgia, it's
you're the criminal.
It's a felony. Right. It's no black and white, or I'm sorry, there's no gray area here. It's very obvious. And the fact that common sense presented with the information didn't prevail in that one. And that's the link to this to what was going on in Canada is that, you know, this lack of common sense and you know, some people will want, there's people that will debate anything. And it's ridiculous.
And I suspect, and I don't know these guys, and I don't know the situation, but I suspect that they weren't just acting out of a place of misdirected common sense. I think there's underlying racism and fueled by. I think there are some cultural things at play here that go beyond whether or not it was sensible and veer into some other territory, right? That you can't excuse excuse isn't the right word, but like the what went on with the police in Canada, has an absurdist kind of quality to it, which we can't apply to this situation. This is something different, more akin to, black men being killed by white men for just existing in a neighborhood where they are seen as a threat.
Wow,
that's racism.
We don't have to dig on it in this show. It's not a particular focus of our show. But if you want to see something interesting, Google the district attorney in Georgia. Google her name. I think it's Jackie Johnson or something like that. Google her name. And her entire career has been wrought with just awful decision-making. Some of it not along racial lines, just about how to investigate things. And there's an issue with other. It appears that she defers or protects police officers that have worked for her in the past, and just it's absolutely absurd how this person is even has a career. Anyway, I don't want to get it. We don't need to get into it on this podcast. But if you want to go like down that rat hole, you should. It's interesting reading to hear her background. But we're eating up a lot of time here, and important, good topics. But the one topic we have to get to every week is Sarah's Big App, and we have to have Sarah's Big App. Sarah, what's your Big App of the week?
Gotta have it.
Gotta have it.
So this week I actually have a website rather than an app, but it's sort of appy, and it's called poolside.fm.
Poolside.fm.
I discovered it. Yeah, poolside.fm. Just go there. Just go and enjoy. It needs no further explanation.
Really?
If you want a little escape, if you want to feel like you're back in the 80s and it's Miami Vice all over again, maybe just a chill mix to listen to while you're sitting at your desk.
Wow.
See,
please go.
I'm hopeful that this is music like I think, and not because I should. Let me cover my phone's ears if it has ears. I think we all know Facebook somehow. I talk freely in front of my phone. I use I don't know. I'm too free with my language, perhaps. Anyway, my Facebook ads, apparently it's listening to my exercise more than my eating. And it's been giving me ads because, sometimes they get it right and sometimes they really don't. It's giving me ads for swimsuits for people that weren't me in the 20s. So I will not be listening to Poolside FM while wearing any These swimsuits are dental floss, listeners. Like, wow. I don't know if things can fit into them, but they have got the wrong lady.
Yeah, cutouts are all the rage now, and I'm like never at my best could I pull off a cutout swimsuit, and definitely not today.
What's a cutout swimsuit?
It means think about fabric that smooths you, like it's a whole piece of fabric. Now imagine one that's sort of like mesh, like you're caught in some sort of a fishing net.
Like I'm a dolphin that got caught in a net?
Yes, exactly. Like a dolphin caught in a net. That's
well, but it's also like imagine a one-piece bathing suit, but it's like there's like a big cutout space. And listeners can't see this, but like around where your rib cage is. You've seen them, Greg. You know what I'm talking about. Like it's one piece, but it almost looks like a bikini with like a connecting line up the middle.
Right. It tends to be cut out at places that maybe those are where your chips went whenever you ate too many pickles. And maybe so the cutouts are never in the good spot.
I know what you mean now, Sarah, as you describe it. I didn't know those are called cutouts.
It's not a good look for me.
So one thing,
Side FM, I'm all in. But yeah, please, no more ads for swimsuits that ladies of a certain age should not be wearing.
If anybody sees how I dress, I'm not setting any fashion trends, but I did buy a designer, and don't ask me the designer's name because I don't keep track of these. But I bought a very expensive designer mask because I figured these things are going to be it's washable. I just figured that this is going to be the new normal, so I might as well get on board and get something that looks comfortable. And
was it worth it? Was it worth going for the name brand?
I haven't received it yet. I just put the order in this past week, so I'll get it in the next couple of weeks. I've got a generic one here, which I'll share on the screen, but there's nothing special about this. It's actually very comfortable and breathable. But I figured this one was more full coverage. That came around my face, and there's two straps that go around your head and one around your neck. So I figured.
Do you think we'll see this on the runway? I don't know why I'm wondering when we'll see this in print ads and on runways, because people have normalized it like in avatars on Twitter and some of the press conferences. Some folks are wearing them just to kind of give us what looks normal, and it's, the in thing.
Well, I've spent a fair amount of time traveling around Asia for a good chunk of my career. And when I would go there, especially Hong Kong, China, and Japan, they tend to use what I consider kind of cheap paper masks, disposable masks. That's very widely accepted there. That could be the thing here too, but there's between the shortages and everything else. I figured I just want to get one thing that's kind of like my look. Maybe I'm thinking about the wrong thing here, but I figure if we got to do this, I want to feel comfortable and look cool doing it, or at least try.
Don't you think we'll see this? I know they've said they're going to give them away on planes. I can imagine you get fans at sporting events or a rock concert. Like if we go back and we're more spread out, I mean, wouldn't you want the commemorative mask that comes with your I'm imagining you're in a basketball game, that would be, and all your fans are in the same, whatever, purple and gold. And sorry, I'm a marketer. It's these are,
makes sense.
Yeah. Then you've got this TV shot and maybe you're more spread out, but you're all kind of fierce because you're cheering in your, team colors.
Yep. Oh, one update I wanted to share. I'm not trying to change conversation, but I am. One thing I want to bring up, we talked last week about Greg getting on the treadmill and doing the Peloton and stuff like that.
How's your big app of the week? And are you getting string cut out bathing suit ads?
I had a false start.
Oh boy!
So I'm going to get back on the bandwagon this week, and so I'm going to install the Peloton app, and I'm going to kick this off on Monday. Sarah, you're
excited.
You're on the Peloton app, right?
I'm on the Peloton app. My leaderboard name on Peloton is K Sarah. So it's QUE _SERA _SARAH, and then there's another H just to make things more complicated because somebody else came up with that nickname as well. But I still take credit.
You'll have to share that in our Slack channel so that because there's no way I'm going to remember this after I already forgot it. So
I will. We have another listener who secretly DM'd me and we're following each other, but I'm not gonna call him out over the air in case he doesn't want to be known.
So what can I see if I follow you? What is this? How much you did? Or
you can see a lot, actually. You can see how many rides I've done. You can see what my stats were for each ride, which is, kind of like what my, points were in a sense in terms of like how many calories I burned or what my output was. You can see it all.
Is there going to be public shaming with this? Greg walked at a pace of 3 miles an hour for 15 minutes. Is that
no, dude? And because I'm small, I'm a lightweight person. I always end up pretty low on the leaderboards just because I can't actually put a lot of force on the pedal. So I don't burn as many calories as somebody who's bigger than me would burn. So I never really quite make it up very high. I'm usually kind of hovering in below the middle of the line of the leaderboard. Is my weight
going to be public on this?
No, your weight won't be public, but your ability to output will be stronger because you're bigger and heavier, right? So than me. Not you're not big and heavy, but you know what I'm trying to say. I'm always down.
I'm not Ed Sipet. I'm sorry. We all can't be Ed Sipets. Who's still shopping in the boys section of Target, by the way.
We're at a disadvantage in this scenario because it's harder to push out as much energy.
Got it.
When you're smaller. That's all.
Speaking of sharing the love in the family, my mom was talking about how she was having trouble consuming enough water, and now she is on Team Water Llama. So Sarah continues, and she admits she's 2 days in. We share llamas, so me, my youngest, and my mom are now 3 generations of llamas are sucking down water.
It's the Sarah virus, right? People are just catching symptoms are increased water intake.
And the funny part is, Apple's got in the help, they've got a water thing, but I don't know, llama is so much fun. And, but I also have learned after a little more research, Fitbit and Apple are at war, and you have to have a third-party app that takes your data between the two. So it's almost like electronic health records. We're right back where we were again. All these health apps. I love the big app of the week. Some of them work together, some of them don't. Yep. Fitbit works with some things I can share back and forth, some things it doesn't. It's like, oh, come on. People just get on the same page, and they won't.
Yep.
Just get an Apple Watch, Amy.
Oh, my God. One more thing to ruin. I have to have another thing on top. I barely keep my ear.
Eventually you're going to get tired of that Fitbit. You're going to get tired of of exactly what you just described, and you're going to succumb like the rest of us, and you're going to get a watch that is super compatible with your phone, and you're going to love it and never want to go back.
This is $85. Look how little it is. I know. I can lose it.
Before we wrap up, one thing I just want to throw out there, one show that I've got addicted to, is Alaska State Troopers.
Oh, Lord. I admit, I watch that sometimes, too, because I've never seen a moose in person, which I know is a random, but, you're more likely to if you watch a lot. They might have a moose call, right, where you have to, a wayward moose is the problem.
Well, I saw one the other day where they had to put a moose down on the side of the road after somebody had hit the moose.
Oh, no.
And it was sitting there, and the trooper had to take a shotgun out and, boom, take the moose out, take it out of its misery. But it's not like a typical cop show. And part of me wonders, is the National Geographic Channel punking the Alaska State Troopers by putting a spotlight on some of the stuff? Because I'm going to say it's about 50-50 that what they actually show results in something like an arrest or something. Oftentimes they're like, yeah, nothing to see here. It's like, okay, what did I just waste the last 15 minutes on this segment that was focusing on this thing? The funniest thing, I'll just say this real quick. So part of what they do is wildlife preservation and the very.
They have to be incredibly cross-trained up there. There's all sorts of stuff.
So they do things like they'll put bears, like fake bears, in stands, like on an island in a river, because apparently, and I know nothing about hunting, but it's considered poaching if you're on a boat and you're going down the river and there's a boat or a bear on an island and you shoot at it. That's poaching. You can't do that. So
because it's an unfair advantage for you. Bear doesn't have a fair chance.
Bears don't have guns anyway, so I don't know what this unfair advantage thing is personally. But
That is a good point.
We should arm the bears.
Yeah.
Honestly.
But so they did. This is kind of funny. So they put this fake bear on the island. One of the troopers is like hiding in the brush on the island with his binoculars. He's got a radio. Another state trooper is in a boat up the stream, and all of a sudden this boat comes up the stream, and everybody's all the troopers are all wound up. And so the guy in the boat is using his radio. For whatever reason, now he can't communicate with the guy that's on the island.
Oh, no.
So he's like, okay, I'm going to go to the island to find out what's going on, make sure he's okay. He goes up to the island, scares the potential hunter away, totally blows the whole operation just because they couldn't get the radio connection going there. And they go home empty-handed with their big stuffed bear. And they do this with birds too. I forget. They're not pigeons, but they look. They're like quail-like type things. And they had them on kind of on the side of the road. And the same thing. They kind of like flatten out in the woods with the binoculars, waiting for the drive-by driver to shoot at the bird. That's the fake bird. That's
the fake bird.
And
Just imagine what your closet looks like if you're an Alaska State Trooper. It's like, are you taking your moose head out today, or you're like, which weapon are you checking in or out, or like your fake bear?
And the people in Alaska, I am sure this is not representative of Alaska, but when you see like the snapshot of these people that they're pulling over and arresting, I mean, it feels like it's the wild, wild west, whether it's meth or heroin.
It's the last. Yep. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the kind of, well, I mean, it's very much like that. I have friends in Alaska.
And like they say 75% of people in Alaska
crazy.
have a gun because of bears for protection. Just naturally, it's acceptable to have a gun. It's acceptable. It's not even against the law to have a gun kind of in your door of your car. The only thing is you can't be intoxicated with a gun. Now you've crossed the line, but you can have a few beers and have a gun on you apparently.
Well, the ones I've seen too, sometimes it'll be, you think about if you got really intoxicated in college and didn't go to college somewhere like Alaska, then the dumbest thing you do, maybe you're naked behind the dumpster the next day or whatever, right? But if you're naked behind a dumpster in Alaska, it's cold. And so they're always like, somebody gets so wildly drunk, but they're walking around barefoot. And again, the amount of training you must have and what you see, I'm sure that's true for officers everywhere. But there is something about Alaska that makes it like, you really shouldn't do something that dumb because it's just so cold. I don't want to
overtalk you, but there's so many bizarre stories of things here. And unlike typical cop shows, again, like you probably got a 50-50 chance if on that segment they're actually going to arrest anybody or anything. It's just a different, I don't call it a train wreck because it's actually kind of interesting, but it's truly bizarre. It's not like any other cop show you've ever seen. So I just...
a good shout out, accessible to, you don't have to have special channels. Even me with my small TV packages.
Yes.
I can enjoy Alaska State Troopers and water llamas together again.
And water llamas. All right, so I'm going to test you guys. Let me
Oy
see.
vey.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Sarah, how can people access this video we're recording right now?
Oh.
I know.
Oh, no. This is
Nerdherd.tv.
Oh, nailed it.
Yes.
All right, Amy, how can people access the Slack channel?
Oh, God. Bit.ly something, Nerd Herd Pod something?
Well, that's pretty much it right there. You got it.
Without the somethings?
bit.ly/nerdherdpod.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get you in the door.
That's it.
You didn't quite spell it out. Our Twitter handle is Twitter nerd_herd_pod.
Woo!
And I think we can all safely say that we would love a 5-star review on Apple, iTunes, podcasts. We're in the text section. Just type in Nerd Herd Podcast. We're probably one of 5 that have that same name, but
We're the best one of the bunch.
we also have the most reviews out of any of them on there. So I feel pretty comfortable about that.
We
Don't let that be your excuse not to leave another one. We want more reviews.
More. If you have to choose,
I'm hungry for reviews.
Watching this on YouTube and reviewing it on Apple, I'm going to choose the Apple review.
And put some comments on the YouTube one too. We've got pretty thumbnails. Did you guys see the thumbnails I created for our episodes by chance? No?
So nice.
I'm just a terrible person. I let you do all the work and I ignore absolutely everything that you do. I just show up for this.
I'm pretty proud of those thumbnails. So, well,
I'm so busy with whatever Sarah makes me do that week that I mean, what else?
Oh yeah, what is it? So what? Before we wrap
I'm
up
too busy
here,
coaching Amy.
what are you coaching Amy on this week that you can share with us?
Well, I'm in the midst of finishing up my 5K training. So, Greg, I have to, by virtue of this Runkeeper training program that Sarah said, oh, it's great. And it really is, the coach on it is perfect for me. Is I'm in the next couple of weeks, I'm supposed to be able to run a 5K without stopping, which I've never been able to do in my life. I'd lack the breath support to be able to do it and the mental grit. So I'm building mental grit. I'm going to be a dangerous, dangerous woman when I can run 5K. Lord knows what else I'll be able to do and be able to not die, because it really is uphill both ways in my neighborhood. That's not an exaggeration. One day I'll have you all at least come over for dinner. Maybe we can go for a run. Y'all be like, oh my gosh, this is where you've been training. It's like, you know.
Very good.
It's no Alaska, but it's uphill.
At what point does this fall off the rails and you just go back to just baking?
Well, I think I've got to keep this up. My goal is to do this until I can really kick somebody's ass on my soccer team. I won't name names, but I've got a couple people in mind who've mouthed off to me in the past. Coming for you.
Wow. So I see Sarah and I playing opposite roles here. Sarah's encouraging you, and I'm going to just keep poking you for, hey, where's the banana bread?
Well, I made the banana bread. My family ate all the banana bread. So I put it out. I sent a note to my family text, and then I come down and I don't get to eat any of my own banana bread.
No.
That's how my life works. But I maybe I'll send you some, Greg.
No.
You can have a bake-off. Maybe it's me versus Eddie.
Yes. The best banana bread. I like it.
Yeah.
All right. I think on that note, we're going to wrap it up this week. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you to our audience for listening to us this week. And be sure to tune in next week. Thank you.
Bye. See ya.